Hello and welcome back to Emily Cat 176. How are we? I hope you've had a good week because it's Friday again already. And thank you to all the people who have been looking at my videos. I am trying to build the channel, so if you like what I'm doing, please consider subscribing. Okay? So, my question today was, do you like history? I do, and I like reading historical books. I recently listened to the audiobook reading of Batavia by Peter Fitzsimmons. I couldn't remember his last name before. He's an Australian author. And it was confronting what happened. It happened in 1629. So for anyone that doesn't know, in 1629, the Dutch were very powerful, and they had a trading company, the Dutch East India Company, called VOC. And they wanted spices and all sorts of things, and they sent a ship called Batavia out to where they thought they could get spices, the islands. And present-day Java, they named Batavia as well. So the Batavia ship was on their way to Batavia. And off the coast of Western Australia, they ran into a reef. And the ship was not, they couldn't save the ship. And there were some islands around where this happened, and they got onto the islands, and of course they're looking for fresh water and food. And at some point, the one that was in charge of the ship, Francisco Pelsart, took some men and a ship and set off to try and get to Batavia to get help. When he was gone, there was Batavia Island. This is what they're called: Batavia Island, Seals Island, and then there was other islands where Weber Hayes was. And what happened on Batavia Island, it's the only word I can use to describe what happened is depravety. Jeremias Cornelius, remember, I'm pronouncing these in my Australian accent, so I'm sorry if I've pronounced them incorrectly. He became the leader on Batavia's island. I think he was a psychopath. Just my opinion, reading and listening to what I think he was a psychopath. He was not a nice person at all. And what happened was, I don't think I can say some of these words on YouTube. Let me just say, out of about 120 people, when it was all over, there was about 25 of them left. So use your imagination what happened. Because originally they were saying that there were too many people for the resources on the island. And then it just became just killing for killing's sake, really. The women were kept to service the men. Can I put it that way? Whether they wanted to or not. it was really, depravety. And what he did was, with some of them, he put some on Seal Island and then he put in some on the other island. And on the other island, where Weber Hayes was, he was a soldier, and he actually found fresh water on that island, and they found things to eat. So he looked after the people that were on that island, whereas everyone on Seal Island was killed, and most of them on Batavia Island were killed, I should say, sorry. Pelsart did actually return with another ship and help, and he was horrified to find out what had happened. And this happened all off the coast of Western Australia. Very well-known case, very well-known case. Of course, what happened? The one who'd been on watch when they got on the reef, he was hanged in Batavia because he'd lost the ship. And this ship had so much cargo and wealth on it, and it was lost. So he was hung. It ended up that because the ones on Batavia Island, they knew someone was going to come and they were going to actually take over that ship, kill everyone on that, and then go pirating. That didn't happen, and most of them ended up being hung on Seal Island. And another thing that happened, two of the mutineers, because Pelsart, they decided to go back to the Dutch Republic. They dropped two of them off in Australia. And of course it wasn't called Australia then. It was, I can't remember what they called it, but it wasn't Australia. Up in Western Australia, they were never seen again. So people don't know if they actually didn't make it, because of course at that stage there were Indigenous Australians there then. And some anthropologists think that they might have survived, and that there might be a sort of a strain of that, their DNA in some of the Indigenous people going forward. So who knows? Who knows? It was, as I said, I bought the book and I wasn't reading the book, so I listened to it as an audio book. Again, there was a good narrator, and it's a well-written book. This sense of terror, when you're listening to it, there's this sense of terror that comes across because of what's happening. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it made me think, well, what will happen if we were put in that position? I would hope I wouldn't do anything like that. But who knows? As I said, I really do think Cornelius was a psychopath. And you don't want to be stuck on a small island with one of them. So the Dutch VOC, as I said, it was a very powerful company. It actually lost its license in 1799. And then, of course, what took over was the British Indian Company. This is why I think history is interesting. And so this book in particular, we're talking about human beings, we're talking about morals, we're talking about attitudes, you know. I think history is very interesting. I don't know if you do, but I do. So if you're interested, look into Batavia. It was about, 15, 20 years ago the wreck was actually found. And I think they've built a replica, I think. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to the last few days. Interesting, very interesting. Okay, so that's it for Friday. Enjoy your weekend and I'll be back on Monday. Bye.